Okay, folks, we're going to get started. Thanks for joining us again. This is our weekly lender webinar for all of the lenders that are just starting to get their sea legs on how this forgiveness process is going to go. I went ahead and put up a poll to see what topics everyone would like to start out discussing today. We're going to have a three-part session. We're only going to go about 20 minutes on the first session, and then see where people are at, because we've got the 4th of July holiday weekend coming up. So here's the poll, and it in essence is asking the lender review process, the independent contractors, the 3508EZ form requirements, or the SBA Treasury audit process. So I'm just going to leave that poll up there. Let people kind of dig through that, see what they would like to talk about most, and then we'll get right into it and discuss it. We're happy to talk about any of those. We've had some prior webinars on a few of those, but I'd like to see what everybody wants to do. So we are, yeah, it usually comes into this. It usually comes into this. So I'll give it a couple more seconds, and we're not even going to get close. I don't think we're going to. Okay, poll's over. It's the SBA Treasury audit process, and here's why. I'll predict. Here's why, because that's where you guys have liability. If nobody audits anybody and you guys recommend whatever you recommend, well, then everybody's fine. You'd be surprised at some of the conversations I've had with borrowers about what their lenders told them. Just today, even, we did a application for someone who was working with a bank that we're not currently working with, and now I know why. And that bank is going to get a rude awakening. And let me just tell you a story and see if this is, it's certainly not you, because you're taking a proactive approach and you're listening to webinars, and you could be doing a lot of other things other than listening to this webinar. But this lender literally told, so we have the entire application done. They have some very unique circumstances, however. They have a person that they let go partway through the covered period, that they had reduced the wage of that individual a month and a half ago. And so for 2 months, they had the low wage, but for 1 month, they had the high wage. And so that was the base of where they were at. So did they reduce the wages by more than 25%? Well, they didn't. It was a 77% of the salary if you go through that Schedule A worksheet and the salary reduction worksheet. But they were a commission person. That was their base salary. And when you add commissions in there, their commissions were much higher during the January through March timeframe than they were during the covered period, or just the few weeks that they got paid in the covered period. So the borrower is like, what do I do? Do I add commissions? Because if I add commissions in, then yes, we did reduce their wage more than 25% during the several weeks in the covered period, but then we fired them. And so those are all the questions that I think lenders are not looking forward to answering, because it's really not cut and dried. It's not an easy question to answer. On top of it, this business had sold last year. So they had owner compensation. One owner got paid W-2 wages when they weren't an owner before, but they're now an owner of the business. So they were an employee that bought part of the business with their family member. And so the other family member didn't have any wages. They had like maybe 3 weeks of wages in 2019. So their total more than $15,000 for the 8-week period is now reduced by the wages that they got divided by 52 multiplied by 8. I guess you lenders are prepared for this, that are on this webinar and that are listening to this and that are doing research. But let me tell you what the lender said to, and I'm certainly not going to reveal the name of either the borrower or the lender. Let me tell you what the lender told the borrower. Hey, let's just call her Janet for now. Hey, Janet, you're way overthinking these things. Just fill out the front 2 pages of the application, send me your payroll reports, and you're going to get full forgiveness. That's literally what he said. And she goes, but I've got this whole Schedule A that I'm supposed to fill out. He's like, just fill out the front 2 pages and you'll get full forgiveness. This is a $300,000 loan. And so she calls me and she goes, what am I supposed to do here? And I said, well, there's nothing to do. Just call them back and ask them if you qualify for the 3508 EZ form. Maybe that's what he's talking about. And there isn't a Schedule A. And somehow he has some innate knowledge that you qualify for the 3508 EZ form. She calls him back and she says, hey, are you talking about the 3508 EZ form? Do I qualify for that? And is that what you want me to fill out? And his answer was, what's the EZ form? So anyway, obviously that lender, they don't have a lot of loans? No, that bank has 1,100 loans. So that's exactly why we're here. We're here because the SBA can at any time spot audit somebody. They can spot audit somebody, and that's why we did this borrower journey. This is the borrower journey. And we set this borrower journey up so that you could see what the borrower is going to go through, all the way from finishing their covered period all the way over to the SBA audit. So you can see the finished covered period. Here's the user actions, the touch points, the old emotions, the pain points at each section, too much information to digest, just trying to keep their business running. The portal doesn't make any sense. They don't have the right information. The review process from the lender's asking for things they don't have. Let's just assume you get through all of that. In our system, there's happy faces all along, except when you're assembling all the information. That's a neutral face. So it's not a sad face, but you're just not really happy about it. But let's focus in on the audit. What's going to happen is your lenders are going to send this off to the SBA. And if they see a flag and they see a trigger, they're going to audit. They're going to spot check audit. Obviously, everybody above 2 million is going to audit, and we have CPAs and lawyers and everybody on top of that. But let's say that someone like this $300,000 lender does an audit. Okay, what's going to happen here? What is the SBA going to do? They're going to send over a request, and that request is going to basically say all the information that individual borrower did not give to you, that they're required to retain, but they're not required to send you. I want that. As an auditor for the SBA, I want all that information now. Now all the substantiating Schedule A worksheets and all those other items, and it's probably not going to be an EZ form. It'll probably be a regular long 3508 form. So what's going to happen is the user, the borrower, is going to respond to the lender's notification that the SBA audit is requesting documents. Now there's going to be consultation with attorneys and CPAs. Uh-oh, we've got an audit coming. And then you're going to start assembling, as a borrower, you're going to start assembling all the requested audit information. Remember, this is the user actions, okay? Now, the touch points. What are the touch points for this borrower now and the lender? Well, we're going to get the forgiveness documentation files. We're going to look at precedent law for the focus, of the audit. What is the audit focus? What are they auditing? Are they auditing eligibility? Are they auditing your covered period payroll? Are they auditing your FTEs? What are they looking at? And is there precedent out there for what they're looking at and what trouble, you, the lender, could get into? Obviously, they're going to look at financial information if this is an eligibility or a now they've attested to everybody under 2 million that they did have economic uncertainty. So they're saying, we grant that you did that, under that certification, that you attested properly to that. We'll give that to you, that you had no idea what the economics of this pandemic were going to do to your business. So we'll say you did that in good faith. But there are other things that they have to look at, other than the uncertainty narrative, that now you have to basically say, hey, I did certify that. This is why I I did that. Well, if you're up 30% in your business and you're killing it, and you got a $700,000 loan and you pocketed it and you never touched the money, it could be an issue. So sad face all around. All right, those are the touch points. What are the pain points for this audit? Well, the SBA is asking for documentation on items that the borrower doesn't have or didn't think was required. Documents that they were supposed to keep, but they didn't go through that, such as the 2019 salaries or other items. Well, you can easily get that from your payroll company, but what if they're asking for calculations and the salary reduction calculations that you didn't do? And then once you do those calculations, you realize, oh, as a borrower, I attested that I did those. I attested that these calculations are accurate. I clicked a box that said, I am not in possession of any employees here that were reduced by over 25%. And I did those calculations, and that's why I certify that I don't have any reduction. And then the SBA says, sorry, you do have a lot, and now you don't even qualify for this. And now the realization that your PPP loan is going to be a loan and not a grant. And a lot of that grant money was unnecessarily spent. You spent it on big bonuses, and you tried to bonus everybody, and you went way over the limit. And now that money's gone, but now you owe it back to the SBA. And hopefully you don't get referred off to another agency. So as a lender, what can you do to ensure that this doesn't happen to any of your borrowers? All right. What we need to take a step back and look at is, what is the intent as to why this Paycheck Protection Program was put together in the first place? What did the government do? What is the SBA and Treasury trying to accomplish here? They don't want business owners to profit from this. They don't want to take government money and have organizations and companies that are doing just fine get a loan because they can and pocket the money and use their regular revenues to pay their payroll, and then have all this money lying around so that they can go on vacation or buy equipment, or put a down payment on their house if they're a business owner. So if those things are happening, you as a lender should ask some good faith questions. Did you do all these calculations yourself? Or who did these calculations? Your controller? Did you hire someone? Did your son come in here and do these for you? We just want to make sure that when you sign your name to these attestations and these certifications, that you know that you signed, these are accurate calculations. So that would be a good thing. If you're a loan officer and you have personal relationships with these borrowers, you should do that. Some of the bigger banks, they obviously can't do that. So if you're a bigger bank and you're going to mass produce things, I would mass produce it our way. I would have one consistent system, step by step, walking all the borrowers through each phase, having a content library like we have that outlines a video of exactly what that step is, why they're doing it, and how to calculate it, and what data that you would like them to submit. And then have them submit it in a standardized fashion, but customize it to the borrower. If they're a Schedule C borrower, customize your application to them. If you're a 1065 partnership or a 1120S sub S owner, customize it. You can't use any of your self-employment income, sub S person. You don't have self-employment income. You have a corporation income. It's a sub S corporation. You have to have paid yourself a W-2 wage in 2019, take 850 seconds of that, and that's the maximum that you can get in the covered period. Tell them that in your portal. If your portal doesn't tell them that, our platform does. So just make sure that you're educating your borrowers. So when you get to an audit, it's easy. For us, we have everything all detailed out. Our audits are going to be happy faces. We already have everything set. All the audits are traced back. All of the eligibility requirements we've asked and looked at. Their attorneys and their CPAs are well aware of the situation. We're not afraid of any audit. We're happy to have an audit because you do it the right way, because these businesses needed this loan. They needed this loan to keep people employed and to keep their business going. And I hear stories, war stories, about what people are doing with this money. You as a lender, you should be concerned about that. You should ask questions. You're their banker. You're going to have to be their banker after this. You don't want them to get in any trouble. Before you send the forgiveness application on, you should ask them these questions and remedy something before it gets there. It's actually in the IFR that you're supposed to do that you're supposed to ask these questions, and you're supposed to clarify, and you're supposed to, confirm calculations and ensure that they've submitted the right items before you recommend forgiveness. So that's that question. That's what the audit would look like. And I think we'll get some more information as people start getting audited. And we'll see what that looks like. And we will be sharing that information in our webinars. As time goes on, we'll probably do less frequent webinars, but as key items pop up, we'll certainly be sharing that information with you. So the second vote on that was really the easy application, the certifications. Those certifications are really going to be interesting. So let's take a look at those certifications and kind of see what everybody is going to have to do on these instructions, because we've highlighted all of these items and gone through it, and it looks like it's not complicated, but I'm telling you, they've got to simplify this for the independent contractors. But here's your qualification for the easy individuals. Okay, if you're self-employed, if you didn't have any employees in 2019 and you didn't use any employees when you applied for your loan amount, for your total maximum loan amount, then you get the easy form. And then you come piling in, and it's pretty easy, especially if you don't have any employees now. It's just $15,385 for the 8-week and $20,833 if you do have the 24-week that you're going to go. Or if you did not reduce anybody more than 25%, that's the key. You can't have reduced anybody by more than 25% as compared to the average wage or salary of the first quarter of 2020. So you have to take January through March's payroll, get your average amount of what that salary and wage was on an annual basis. If it's $60,000 a year, then every week you were paid $60,000 divided by whatever your pay period is, divided by 52 if you're a weekly borrower. Then you look at the covered period. You take the average pay for the covered period for that individual. If it's beyond 25%, you don't get to do the easy form. You have to go back and do the long form. But if it is, you can certify that you had nobody that you reduced their wages by more than 25%. Now you have two options. You either didn't reduce your head count, your number of people, from January 1st all the way through the covered period, or you have this magic golden ticket, this Willy Wonka magic golden ticket that you can pull out and say, gee, I was unable to operate my business at the same level as before, February 15th, 2020, compared to my covered period. Due to compliance with requirements of the Health and Human Services or the CDC or OSHA, I couldn't operate my business the same way as before February 15th. So if that's the case, sounds easy, but you have to prove it. You have to identify. And they have clarified that if it's a state or local, if it's governor or mayor that says, hey, you cannot have massages. So if you're a massage parlor and they say you can't have massages, the mayor saying you can't have massages is not enough. You have to tie it back to some compliance directive from the CDC or OSHA or the Health and Human Services. And you just got to get your lawyer or CPA. Those will start coming out for each state. But once you do that, and once those standards are established and you didn't reduce the pay of anybody, now you can use the EZ form. And when you use the EZ form, it's supposed to be easy. you're supposed to be able to just zip through it. So really, all of the calculations for Schedule A are just now in one line item. What'd you have? I had $125,000 in total wages. You have to know how to calculate that. You have to cap everybody at the 15, 385, or the 46,000 if you're going to do the 24 weeks. Interest payments, leases, utilities, and then you add all those together. Then you take the total amount that you got. Let's say that you got amount of $100,000 and that was your loan amount. And then you divide the 125,000 by 60%. And of course, you divide that by 60% and you get a much greater number because you're already above your loan amount. Then you take the smallest amount and there you have it. There it is. We had a lawyer that actually asked us a question, and they said, okay, so if I had, I'm never gonna be able to get full forgiveness, because even if I had full forgiveness and I had $100,000 and my loan amount was $100,000 and I spent it all on payroll, if I multiply that by 60%, I can only take 60,000 because I have to take the smallest. It's like, it's not multiplying it, it's dividing by 60%. So when you divide by 60%, now that number is, obviously greater than 100,000. So 1666. If this number was 100,000 and you had 100,000 loan amount, this number here is 166,000. Okay. So then you just take the smallest amount, and it's 100,000, you get full forgiveness. And that's it. That's the easy form. And then you attest that everything was accurate and you spent all your money where you're supposed to, and you agree that you'll pay a fine of up to 250,000, or you'll go to prison for 2 years if you lied. No problem. Piece of cake. So what I'm kind of saying to everybody is ensure that you're just using common sense here. All right. Lenders aren't going to do a full deep dive review. They're not required to independently audit your numbers. Just ensure that you're doing things right. And so we're going to go into the question and answer phase, but this is where I'm going to call it, because I think you've got enough information for these two areas to be able to email us, ask us more questions, see if there's something that other lenders, we kind of keep track of what other lenders are saying. Just be smart about it. Use common sense. The government's trying to help people stay in business, and they're trying to keep employees paid when they otherwise would not have been paid. That's the intent of the program. Just keep that in mind, and I think you'll be okay. Anyway, thanks for those that are coming. I want to just try and keep this to a good 20-25 minutes and then go into the Q&A session. So we're going to go into that now. And I hope you all enjoy the 4th of July weekend. Be safe. There's certainly a lot going on out there in the United States, and some cases are starting to jump up in certain states. So just be safe, and we'll see you in the forgiveness process.